6-year-old Emma's tiny finger pointed at the portrait, her voice cutting through 800 years of silence in the vampire king's mansion like a silver blade through his undead heart. "That's my mommy," she whispered, clutching a faded letter. "She told me you'd keep me safe." Adrian Thornwood froze, silver eyes locked on the child who had her mother's face, her mother's smile, her mother's impossible ability to make him feel human again, and he realized his greatest love story wasn't over. It had only just begun. If you've ever wondered if love can survive death, hit that subscribe button because Adrian's about to discover that some bonds transcend mortality itself. The Thornwood Mansion had been abandoned for 3 years. At least, that's what everyone in Ashford Falls, Oregon told themselves. Easier to believe the Gothic monstrosity on the hill was empty than to acknowledge what actually lived inside. Emma Sullivan wasn't supposed to be there. Her first-grade class was on a historical architecture field trip, which really meant Mrs. Patterson was running out of ideas to keep 27 6-year-olds entertained on a Friday afternoon. They were supposed to stay on the main path, take photos of the exterior, maybe sketch the gargoyles if anyone actually brought pencils. Emma brought something else. A letter. Sealed. With her name written in her mother's handwriting she barely remembered because Mommy had died when she was 3. The letter had appeared on her birthday cake this morning, left by her grandmother with shaking hands and tears in her eyes. "Your mother made me promise," Grandma had whispered. "When you turned 6. When you are old enough to understand." Understand what? Emma slipped away from her class while they counted windows. The mansion's front door was massive, easily 15 feet tall, carved dark wood that looked like it had seen centuries. It should have been locked. It wasn't. The door swung open silently, and Emma stepped into darkness that smelled like old books, expensive wine, and something else. Something cold and ancient that made her skin prickle. "Hello." Her voice echoed in the vast entrance hall. That's when she saw it. The portrait. 20 feet tall, hanging above a sweeping marble staircase, illuminated by a single beam of afternoon light that somehow found its way through the heavy curtains. A woman. Beautiful. Dark hair cascading over pale shoulders, green eyes that seemed alive despite being painted, wearing an emerald dress that matched her eyes. She was smiling, the kind of smile that held secrets and sadness in equal measure. Emma's grandmother had exactly 3 photos of her mother. Blurry phone pictures, mostly. Nothing like this. Nothing that captured how beautiful she'd been, how alive. But Emma knew that face. She saw it every time she looked in the mirror. "That's my mommy," she whispered. "Yes." Emma spun around. A man stood in the shadows at the top of the staircase. Tall, impossibly tall, with shoulders that belonged to a movie villain and a face that belonged in a museum. Sharp cheekbones, full lips, skin so pale it almost glowed, and eyes. Silver. Pure liquid silver, watching her with an intensity that should have been scary but somehow wasn't. He descended the stairs slowly, carefully, like he was afraid she might disappear. He wore all black, expensive black, the kind that whispered wealth without shouting it. As he moved into the light, Emma noticed he didn't walk like normal people. He glided, each step perfect, controlled, predatory. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but his voice cracked. Deep, smooth, with an accent Emma couldn't place. British maybe, but older. "How did you get in?" The door was open. Emma clutched her letter tighter. "Are you Mr. Thornwood?" He stopped 3 stairs from the bottom, keeping distance between them. "I am. Adrian Thornwood." Those silver eyes never left her face. "And you are?" "Emma. Emma Sullivan." She pointed at the portrait again. "Why do you have my mommy's picture? She died 3 years ago." Something broke across Adrian's perfect features. Pain so raw it made Emma's chest hurt. He gripped the banister, his knuckles going even whiter than his skin. "Catherine," he breathed. "Your mother's name was Catherine. You knew her." "I." He seemed to struggle with the word. "Yes, I knew her." "Were you friends?" A laugh escaped him, broken, bitter, something like that. Emma opened her letter. Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper, her mother's familiar handwriting swimming before her eyes. She'd practiced reading every night for a year just so she could read this moment when it came. "Dear Emma," she read aloud, her voice small in the vast hall. "If you're reading this, you've just turned 6, and I'm not there to celebrate with you. I'm so sorry, baby. There are things I need to tell you. Things about who you are, Who your father is. Adrian made a sound sharp, anguished. His hand shot out to grip the banister harder, and Emma heard stone crack under his fingers. Your grandmother thinks I'm crazy, Emma continued reading. Maybe I am. But Emma, you're special. More special than you know. And there are people who might try to hurt you because of it. When you're ready, when you're old enough, I need you to find Adrian Thornwood, the man in the Thornwood Mansion. Show him this letter. He'll keep you safe when I can't. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. Emma looked up. Adrian had sunk down to sit on the stairs, his perfect composure shattered. His silver eyes were fixed on her with something that looked like wonder and horror and grief all tangled together. She knew, he whispered. She knew what would happen. And he couldn't finish. Mr. Thornwood. Emma took a step closer. Why would my mommy want you to keep me safe? Safe from what? Before he could answer, every window in the mansion exploded inward. Glass rained down like deadly snow. Adrian moved faster than Emma's eyes could follow. 1 second he was on the stairs, the next he had her wrapped in his arms, his body curved around hers as shards bounced off his back like they'd hit stone instead of flesh. Stay down, he commanded, his voice no longer smooth but edged with something dangerous. Something inhuman. Through the spaces between his arms, Emma saw them. Shadows, but not normal shadows. They moved wrong, crawled across the walls like living things, and they had eyes. Red, glowing eyes that fixed on her with hunger that made her want to cry. Found her, one shadow hissed, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. The halfling. The king's abomination. Adrian actually snarled, and Emma felt his whole body go rigid. You dare enter my domain. He set Emma down behind a marble pillar, his silver eyes meeting hers for just a second. Don't look. Whatever happens, Emma, don't look. Then he turned, and Emma saw his teeth. Fangs. Long, razor-sharp fangs that gleamed in the dim light. The shadows laughed. 3 years hiding, Adrian. 3 years mourning your precious human. And now her spawn comes crawling to you. The council will be pleased when we deliver her corpse. You'll deliver nothing but your own ashes. What happened next was too fast for Emma to fully process. Adrian moved like lightning, like violence given form. Shadows screamed actual screams that hurt Emma's ears as he tore through them with hands that had become claws, with speed that defied physics. But there were so many. For every shadow he destroyed, 2 more poured through the broken windows. They circled him, laughing, taunting. You can't protect her forever, King. She's an abomination. Half vampire, half human. The council decreed no halflings survive. Even yours. Emma's blood went cold. Half vampire? Her? One shadow broke from the pack, diving straight for her pillar. Emma screamed. Adrian roared a sound so primal, so filled with rage that the mansion itself seemed to shake. He crossed the room in a blur, caught the shadow by what might have been its throat, and obliterated it with his bare hands. Light exploded from his palms, pure, white light that turned the shadow to dust. The other shadows froze. She is under my protection, Adrian said, his voice dropping to something quiet and infinitely more terrifying than his roar. She is my blood. And I am Adrian Thornwood, Vampire King of the Western Territories. Anyone who touches her will answer to me. And trust me, his smile was all fangs and promise. Death will be a mercy I don't grant. The shadows retreated, hissing threats about the council, about vengeance, about how this wasn't over. Then they were gone, melting into nothing. The mansion fell silent except for Emma's ragged breathing and the crunch of glass under Adrian's boots as he turned back to her. His fangs were still visible. His eyes glowed brighter silver. There was blood on his hands, black blood that steamed and evaporated. Emma should have been terrified. Should have run screaming. Instead, she stepped out from behind the pillar and asked the only question that mattered, "Did you love my mommy?" Adrian's dangerous expression crumbled. The glow faded from his eyes. His fangs retracted. He looked suddenly, impossibly vulnerable. "More than anything," he whispered. "More than my own existence." "Then why didn't you save her?" The question drove into him like a stake. He actually staggered, catching himself against the wall. "I tried. God, Emma, I tried. But your mother Catherine made a choice. A sacrifice. To protect you." From what? From me. His voice broke. From what I am. From the world I live in. She knew that as long as you were connected to me, the council would hunt you. So she hid you. Made everyone believe you were fully human. Even gave her life creating wards to protect you until you were old enough to defend yourself. Emma processed this, her 6-year-old brain working overtime. But I'm not fully human. No. Adrian knelt down to her level, his silver eyes searching hers. You're half vampire. My daughter, Emma. Catherine and I loved each other. Against all laws, all logic, all warnings. And you are the result of that love. The only dhampir half-vampire born in over 3 centuries. Would you sacrifice everything for love? Drop everything in the comments if you would. And keep watching because Emma's about to make a choice that changes the vampire world forever. You're my daddy. Emma's voice was tiny. Yes. The word seemed to cost him everything. I am. And I failed you. I let your mother die to protect you, and I've spent 3 years drowning in guilt and grief, hiding in this mansion like a coward while you grew up without either parent. Tears streamed down his pale cheeks, actual tears, tinged pink with blood. Emma did something then that surprised them both. She walked forward and hugged him. Adrian froze, his arms hovering uncertainly around her small frame. Then, slowly, carefully, like she was made of glass, he hugged her back. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry, Emma. It's okay, she said, her voice muffled against his chest. Mommy said you'd keep me safe. She was right. They sat in Adrian's study, a massive room lined with books that smelled like centuries and leather. Emma perched on a chair that was way too big for her, her feet dangling, while Adrian paced like a caged wolf. The council, he explained, his voice tight with controlled rage, is the governing body of the vampire world. Ancient, powerful, and utterly convinced that dhampirs are abominations that will destroy the balance between humans and vampires. Why? Because dhampirs have the strengths of both species and the weaknesses of neither. You can walk in the sunlight, Emma. You can eat human food. But you also have vampire speed, strength, and when you're older you'll stop aging. You're the best of both worlds, which terrifies creatures who rely on their advantages to stay on top. Emma swung her legs thoughtfully. So they want to kill me because I'm too powerful. Essentially, yes. Adrian stopped pacing, turning to face her. Your mother knew this. She spent your entire pregnancy researching, preparing, and building magical protections. When you were born, she cast a glamour on you, a spell that hid your vampire nature, made you appear completely human. It should have lasted until your 18th birthday. But I'm only 6. Exactly. Adrian's jaw clenched. Which means something broke the glamour early. The question is what and why now? As if in answer, Emma felt something strange. A tingling in her gums, right where her baby teeth met her adult teeth. She reached up, touching her mouth, and felt something sharp. Mr. Thornwood? Adrian. She looked up at him with worried eyes. My teeth feel funny. Adrian was beside her instantly, gently tilting her chin up. His silver eyes widened. Your fangs are emerging. Years early. He pulled back, running a hand through his dark hair. The glamour isn't just breaking, it's collapsing. Emma, how long have you felt different? She thought about it. Since my birthday. This morning. I woke up and everything was sharper. I could hear Mrs. Patterson's heartbeat during class. I could smell the cafeteria food from outside the building. I thought I was getting sick. You're not sick. You're awakening. Adrian knelt before her again, taking her small hands in his cold ones. Your vampire nature is emerging, and without your mother's glamour to suppress it, the council can sense you. That's why they attacked today. They felt you awaken. What do? We run. We hide. He stopped, seeing something in her face. What? Emma pulled out her mother's letter again, unfolding it to reveal a second page she hadn't read aloud. There's more. Mommy wrote something else. She read it silently first, her eyes widening, then looked at Adrian. She says there's a way to make me safe. Something called the blood oath of the Thornwood line. It would make me officially your heir, protected by ancient vampire law that even the council can't break. Adrian went very still. That's That ritual hasn't been performed in 500 years. It requires, he stopped. Emma, it requires you to drink vampire blood. My blood. It would complete your transformation, make you fully dhampir with no human vulnerability left. You'd be stronger, faster, but also, there's no going back. You'd be vampire royalty, bound to my bloodline forever. Would I be safe? Yes. The Thornwood bloodline is the oldest, most powerful vampire dynasty in existence. If you bear my mark, the council would have to go through me to get to you. And they won't. They might be cruel, but they're not stupid. Emma looked at the letter, at her mother's handwriting, at the final line. Trust Adrian. Trust yourself. Be brave, my darling girl. Be the bridge between our worlds. She looked up at the vampire king and her father with eyes that held more courage than most adults could manage. Let's do it. The ritual chamber was deep beneath the mansion, carved from stone that predated America itself. Adrian had carried Emma down there, moving through passages that wound like a maze, until they reached a room lit by hundreds of candles. In the center was a circle carved into the floor, inscribed with symbols that glowed faint crimson. This is where my father made me his heir, Adrian said quietly, setting Emma down gently. Where his father made him heir, and his father before that. This ritual binds blood to blood, soul to soul. Are you absolutely certain, Emma? She nodded, her tiny hand finding his. I'm sure. Adrian knelt in the center of the circle, gesturing for her to kneel facing him. As she did, the symbols began to glow brighter, responding to their presence. This will hurt, he warned, pulling a ceremonial dagger from his coat. The blade was silver, etched with the same symbols as the floor. Not the drinking that will taste like honey to you, but the bonding. It will feel like your blood is on fire. Your body is rewiring itself, accepting power it wasn't meant to hold yet. Can you be brave? Mommy said to be brave. Emma's voice was steady. So I'll be brave. Pride shone in Adrian's eyes. You are extraordinary, Emma Sullivan. Your mother would be so proud. He drew the blade across his palm, blood welling up crimson and luminescent, nothing like human blood. He offered his hand to Emma. Drink. 3 drops, no more, no less. And Emma. His voice softened. I promise I'll keep you safe. From the council, from the shadows, from anything that tries to harm you. You are my daughter. My heir. My heart. Emma pressed her small lips to his palm and drank. The effect was instantaneous. The symbols on the floor exploded with light crimson and gold and silver all swirling together. Emma gasped as power flooded her veins, as her vampire nature surged forward with nothing to hold it back. It hurt. It hurt like nothing she'd ever felt. Like her bones were breaking and reforming, like her blood was boiling, like every cell in her body was screaming. But Adrian's other hand found hers, gripping tight. I'm here, he said, his voice cutting through the pain. Hold on to me, Emma. I've got you. She squeezed his hand so hard she should have broken his fingers. Maybe she did, but she wasn't sure. All she knew was the fire in her veins and her father's voice anchoring her to reality. That's it. Almost done. You're so strong, Emma. So brave. Just a few more seconds. The light reached a blinding crescendo, then snapped off like someone had flipped a switch. Emma collapsed forward into Adrian's arms, gasping. Her body felt different, stronger, lighter, more. She could hear everything: Adrian's unnecessary breathing, the flicker of candle flames, the heartbeat of a mouse somewhere in the walls above. She could feel the power in her veins, dormant but present, waiting for her to grow into it. Look at me, Adrian said gently, tilting her chin up. Emma opened her eyes. In the reflection of his silver gaze, she saw herself. Her own eyes now held flecks of silver that glowed faint in the candlelight. Her fangs had fully emerged, small, perfect, deadly. The mark, Adrian whispered, touching her wrist gently. Emma looked down. On her wrist, glowing faint crimson before fading to a permanent black tattoo, was a symbol of the Thornwood bloodline, a rose wrapped around a crown, thorns dripping blood. You're mine now, Adrian said, and his voice held wonder and fierce protectiveness. My heir. My daughter. The Thornwood princess. And I swear every year of my existence, Emma, no one will ever hurt you again. Emma threw her arms around his neck, suddenly exhausted but feeling safer than she'd felt since her mother died. "I love you, Daddy," she whispered. Adrian's arms tightened around her, and when he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "I love you too, little one. More than you'll ever know." 3 years later, 9-year-old Emma Thornwood walked through the halls of her new school with confidence that made other kids step aside. She wore the Thornwood crest on a necklace. Her father had given her a warning to any supernatural creature that she was protected. But she didn't need protection anymore. Not really. Over 3 years, Adrian had trained her. Taught her to control her strength, to move with vampire grace, to defend herself against anything the council might send. He'd also taught her chess, showed her his art collection, read her bedtime stories that were sometimes hundreds of years old. He'd become the father she'd always needed. Protective but not smothering. Strong but never scary. Haunted by her mother's memory but healing, slowly, through loving the daughter they'd made together. The council had tried twice more to challenge her right to exist. Both times, Adrian had reminded them exactly why he was king. Both times, they'd retreated, nursing wounds and wounded pride. Now Emma was growing up in Thornwood Mansion, splitting her time between human school and vampire lessons, between playground drama and ancient politics. She was unique as the only dhampir in existence, the bridge between two worlds, exactly what her mother had intended. At home, Adrian was waiting. He'd started painting again, something he hadn't done since her mother died. His latest work was a portrait of Emma, capturing her smile, her silver-flecked eyes, her mother's spirit living on in a daughter who'd inherited the best of both parents. "How was school?" he asked as she bounded into his study. "Good. I aced my history test. Which was totally unfair because you literally lived through half of it." Adrian laughed a sound that came easier now, more often. "I cannot be held responsible for your academic advantages." Emma grinned, fangs flashing, then sobered slightly. "Daddy, do you still miss Mommy?" "Every day," he admitted. "But Emma, she gave me you. And that means I still have a piece of her, the best piece. Her courage, her kindness, her heart. Every time I look at you, I see her. And it doesn't hurt as much anymore. It just reminds me that love never really ends. It just transforms into something new." Emma hugged him tight. "I wish I remembered her better." "Then I'll tell you stories. Every day if you want. I have 800 years of memories, Emma. I can spare a few thousand to make sure you know your mother." He kissed the top of her head. "She loved you so much. Enough to sacrifice everything. That kind of love doesn't fade. It lives on. In you. In us. In every choice we make to honor her memory by living well." Outside the window, the sun set over Ashford Falls. Inside Thornwood Mansion, a vampire king and his dhampir daughter sat together, bound by blood and magic and love that transcended death itself. Catherine Sullivan had made the ultimate sacrifice. But in doing so, she'd created something beautiful. A family forged in darkness but thriving in light, a father and daughter who'd found each other through tragedy and chosen to build something better. Some love stories end in death. But the best ones? They transform. They evolve. They become legacies that outlive mortality and prove that the strongest magic in any world, human or vampire, is simply this: love. Unconditional, sacrificial, eternal love. And that, Emma thought as her father began telling her stories of her mother's laugh and courage and impossible heart, was the most powerful magic of all. Catherine sacrificed everything so her daughter could have both worlds. Adrian spent 3 years in grief before finding redemption in fatherhood. Emma became the bridge between humanity and immortality. What would you sacrifice for the ones you love? Drop your answer below, and subscribe for more emotional vampire stories that prove love never dies, it just evolves. Hit that notification bell, because next week's story is even more intense. Thanks for watching, and remember, the strongest bonds are forged in the darkest moments.